Hi, everyone, and welcome back to 5 Minute English Practice. I'm Jessica, and I'm really glad you're spending this time with us today. If you clicked on this episode, maybe it's because you've been learning English for a while, you've put in real effort, but deep down, you still feel like something is missing. Like you're not fully becoming the English speaker you want to be yet. Today, we're going to talk honestly about how to level up your English, not in a fast or magical way, but in a way that feels real, sustainable, and connected to your life. And I'm not alone today. I'm here with Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here because this topic brings back a lot of memories for me. I remember being at an intermediate level and feeling confused because on the outside it looked like I was doing fine, but on the inside, I still felt unsure every time I opened my mouth to speak.
Yes. And I think that feeling is exactly where many B1 learners are right now. You understand English much more than before. You can follow conversations, podcasts, and videos. But when it's time to speak, you hesitate, you overthink, and sometimes you wonder why confidence doesn't grow as fast as your knowledge.
Exactly. And that's often the moment when learners start asking themselves difficult questions like, am I learning the wrong way? Or why do I still feel stuck even though I study so much?
And the truth is, feeling stuck doesn't mean you're failing. Very often, it simply means you're at a stage where improvement becomes quieter and slower. And because it's less obvious, it feels frustrating.
Yes, especially because at the beginning, progress is very clear. You learn basic words, simple sentences, and suddenly you can communicate. But later, leveling up feels more emotional than technical.
That's such a good way to say it. At this stage, leveling up your English is less about learning new rules and more about changing how you use the language and how you see yourself as a learner.
And I think this is where many people misunderstand the idea of leveling up. They think it means speaking perfect English or sounding exactly like a native speaker.
Yes, but in reality, leveling up means feeling comfortable expressing your thoughts, even when your English is not perfect, and trusting that communication is more important than correctness.
When I finally understood that, my English started improving in a very different way. I stopped focusing on every small mistake and I started focusing on sharing ideas, feelings, and opinions.
And that shift is powerful because language is not just grammar and vocabulary. Language is connection. It's how we share who we are.
Exactly. And at B1 level, you already have enough English to do that. The problem is usually not ability, but fear.
Fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, and sometimes fear of sounding less intelligent than you really are.
Yes, and that fear often makes learners quiet, even when they actually have something meaningful to say.
That's why one of the most important steps to leveling up your English is letting go of the idea that you need to be perfect before you speak.
Because perfection creates silence, and silence doesn't help you grow.
Exactly. Real conversations are messy. People pause, change their thoughts, repeat themselves, and search for words. That's normal, even for native speakers.
Once learners accept that, they often feel a sense of relief, like they finally have permission to speak.
And speaking, even imperfectly, is where real progress begins. But of course, mindset alone is not enough. Habits also matter a lot.
Yes, and one habit that really changes everything is having a small but consistent daily English routine.
I always tell learners that it's better to do a little every day than a lot once in a while. English needs to stay close to your life.
And that daily habit doesn't have to feel heavy or serious. It can be gentle and flexible.
Exactly. You can listen to English while making coffee, walking outside, or doing simple tasks. The key is to stay connected to the language every day.
And when it comes to listening, I think learners often underestimate how powerful it can be when done the right way.
Yes, listening is not just about hearing sounds. It's about noticing how ideas are connected, how sentences flow, and how speakers express emotion.
I like listening to the same content more than once because each time I notice something new. Whether it's a phrase, a tone, or a way of explaining an idea.
That kind of listening slowly changes the way you think in English. And over time, it also changes the way you speak.
Another thing that helped me a lot was learning phrases instead of single words because phrases feel more alive and more useful.
Yes, phrases give you structure and confidence. When you know how a sentence usually starts or ends, speaking feels less stressful.
And that naturally leads to more fluency because you're not building every sentence from nothing.
Still, for many learners, speaking remains the hardest part, especially when emotions like nervousness and self-doubt appear.
That's true. Speaking puts you in a vulnerable position because your English becomes visible.
But vulnerability is also where growth happens. Every time you speak, even when you feel uncomfortable, you're training your brain to trust itself.
And you don't need big conversations to do that. Small moments matter too.
Talking to yourself, describing your thoughts, or reflecting on your day in English are all powerful practices.
They help you move away from translating and closer to thinking naturally in English.
And when you speak, it really helps to focus on ideas rather than grammar.
Yes, because ideas create flow, while grammar often creates fear.
Grammar can always be improved later, but confidence grows only when you allow yourself to speak freely.
Another important step in leveling up is using English to talk about your real life, not just textbook topics.
When English becomes a tool for your thoughts, your work, your dreams, and even your worries, it stops feeling like a foreign language.
And finally, I think every learner needs to hear this. Be patient and kind with yourself.
Yes, because language learning is not a straight line. Some days you feel strong, and other days you feel lost.
But even on difficult days, learning is still happening quietly in the background.
If you understand more, react faster, or feel a little braver than before, that's real progress.
So if you're listening right now and feeling unsure, please remember that you're exactly where you need to be.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Take one small idea from this episode and try it in your own life. We'll see you in the next episode of 5 Minute English Practice. Bye for now.